This
So,
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, great. So, Amanda, why don't we start with you? So just for your information, this is something that is self-supported. We have different moderators, and it's all about just sharing your story with sarcoidosis and being heard. And if you have questions, we can go through what we've learned. So we're really trying to provide a safe place for people to speak and listen with other people that have this affliction. And she dropped off. Maybe that's not for Amanda. We'll see if she calls back in. Jennifer, welcome to the call.
Hi,
So do you or somebody you know have sarcoidosis?
I have it. I was diagnosed in 2002, so I've had it for 20 years.
And you're still kicking, so congratulations on that. Where do you have it?
So it started in my lungs, and then spread to my eyes, my sinuses, my skin. I mean, the problem is I'm in Connecticut and there aren't doctors here that really understand and specialize in it. So
Right.
I'm kind of at a point where the further diagnosis is very difficult. I recently, I'm still going through it, but I recently had a flare-up that originally started October of 2020, and it got really bad in the end of July, and it was the worst one I've ever had in my life. I experienced things that, well, obviously, we're not all sarcoid, but caused originally by it.
Right, figure it out, right?
Yeah, and
I don't know what caused it, but it's going on.
It's been a rough road.
It has. How was the first decade or two before October 20?
So I was diagnosed with sarcoid in September of 2002, and I was on I had pneumonia, and I was on heavy prednisone for about from there until February. In February, I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know whether we'd be able to have the baby or not due to the medication and all that stuff, but the baby ended up being fine. And then a month later, I found out. I had squamous cell carcinoma cancer in my mouth and neck. So so that was February. So March, I found out I had cancer. April, I had surgery. They delivered her in July early because I had to go through radiation and I was going too far out of range. And yeah, it started off, it really kicking. So yeah, that's how it started. And then, the next 5 years were pretty good. I would say, and then, I would have flares here and there. And then around 2010 to 12 is when it started getting really bad. And I think it's a combination of the radiation and as well as, the sarcoid and, it's just.
It's a lot for your body to take.
Yeah, it's a lot of trauma. And it's hard to explain to people. Like my family.
Most people have never heard of it.
Right. And it's, if the doctors don't have a good understanding of it that I'm going to, how are my family members and friends going to understand it? So it's very difficult because, like my kids don't really know how to handle it. And, I have to keep my life very quiet, because if not, the stress will get to me. I mean, I've been fortunate that other than right now, my mental state is usually, very positive, and I think that is what gets me through a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I felt recreated by a lot of that. I didn't have cancer, but I had a good period, and then more recently had a bad period. Nobody I interact with understands what this is
Yeah.
about.
And so that, they won't treat me, because my immune system is so low that they think the cancer is going to come back. So it's like a double-edged sword all the time.
Yeah. And if you're not dealing with people that understand this in the
Exactly.
medical community, they don't know how to handle it.
Right. And for the past 4 years, I was seeing doctors, regularly, just so something like this wouldn't happen. And when it happened, my doctors had no idea what to do with me.
Right. Right.
So it's just,
Well,
it's just,
welcome to the community. I am so sorry that you're part of this.
well, no, it's good to, this is the first time I've ever gone onto a support group. So
yeah, it was key for me. I found it last year, and it was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Honest to God. So a little bit about me. I was a chemical engineer by trade, so worked in chemical plants.
Yeah.
Or my company sent me overseas in '97. I got a laundry list of immunizations, the things I never even knew existed. And when I came back, things were just a little off.
Yeah, something wasn't right.
What it was. A couple of years after I came back, I had a lymph node fire.
Yep.
And going in a lymph node, they went in and took it out and went, "That's not cancerous."
Yeah.
And then did nothing about it. And then fast forward 4 years, 5 years into like 2010.
Yep.
And I was camping with the Boy Scouts. I was in a cabin with my son, and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't breathe.
Wow.
I had no idea what was going on, and went to see a pulmonologist and this and that. Thankfully, he had a rescue inhaler because he has asthma. That saved my life. And again, 2 years of don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And finally, in 2010, I was having, it looked like a cyst on my right ring finger.
Where was it?
On my ring finger, on my right hand. And it was interfering with my golf game. So I'm like, can you tell me what it is, or can you remove it? So the doctor's like, well, we have to remove it, and then we can tell you what it is. So he went in, and he told me he'd never seen anything like it. He said it was like pulling spaghetti out of my tendon sheath.
That is so interesting. Because
all the clumpy granulomas were in my interstitial tissue.
Okay, so that is,
and that's how it was presented. It was like a little log jam in my tendon sheath, and it would swell up into my hand, and most of it's still there, by the way. And so he sent it off for analysis, and it came back as sarcoidosis. And he's like, "What? In his hand? Get out of here! Try again." And it came back with the same thing. So they did some chest studies, X-ray, CT, and sure enough, they went in with a bronchoscopy and got a sample and went, "Yep, you got it."
Yeah, I had a on the side, thoracoscopy, whatever. They went into my lungs and biopsied 2 nodes, one on the upper and one on the lower on the left side, and both were positive for it.
Yeah, I was already in stage 3 at that point. So I was involved in my lung. Do you understand the stages?
Yeah.
So the 4 stages, your hilar lymph nodes, usually when you first breathe something in, then it can expand into your lungs.
Yep.
And then it tends to clear out of your lymph nodes and just stay in your lungs. That's stage 3. And then stage 4 is when it starts to become fibrotic.
Yep.
And you get the scarring and it's permanent damage. So that's where I am now. I'm in stage 4 in my lungs.
Okay.
But the doctor was like, yeah, no problem. You got nothing, we don't do anything about it. Just live your life. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'll take it. Sarcoidosis
Right.
is nothing.
Right. That's what I thought too. I agree.
I didn't realize I had the chronic version, which
Yeah.
means I was susceptible to stress. I was
Yep.
susceptible
Yes.
to inflammatory substances like alcohol and carbohydrates and processed food.
Yep.
So I didn't know to avoid it. And in 2016, my mom passed away. I was a couple of years into a divorce. Girlfriend broke up with me. This, that, the other thing. And I was just like, start my own
Yep.
business. And
Yep. And it
I
goes right
had
over the edge.
partial bowel obstruction. I ended up in the emergency department. I could,
Wow.
I thought I was going to have an alien out of my tummy. And they're like, oh, no, you have partial bowel obstruction. I'm like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, I think this is sarcoidosis. I think this is sarcoidosis. And they're like, nah, everything's fine. So I went back, carried
Mm-hmm.
on. And in 2020, in January, so just about 2 years ago, I was in a motor vehicle accident.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a light, I got rear-ended, whacked me pretty good. I was kind of looking at the side, and so everything just kind of got jostled around. And two
Yep.
days later, I couldn't move. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. So I went to the emergency department, and I was in atrial fibrillation.
Oof.
My heart was whacked,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I have sarcoidosis. And like, yeah, maybe, but do you drink? I'm like, yeah, I have a couple of drinks a night. Oh,
Yep.
that's too much.
Every other
I'm
reason.
like, yeah, right. So we went through a heart catheterization, a whole series trying to figure out what's going on with my heart. And finally, we ended up on a PET scan,
Mm-hmm.
and it lit up like a Christmas tree. It was
Yeah.
all involved in my left ventricle, left aorta, right ventricle. Like 60% of my heart was inflamed.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, gotta put some prednisone now. Now we got to treat it. Now it's
Yeah.
dangerous. And I didn't do well with prednisone.
No, me neither.
The first 2 weeks were wonderful.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and then an alien took over. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. My neck and head were the same width.
What was crazy is I never got the moon phase. I was on prednisone for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It took me about 6 months to taper off of it.
Yep.
I never got the moon phase. I lost weight because I
Mm-hmm.
started doing a lot of research
Yep.
and started changing my diet, using intermittent fasting and low carb, and you know, so for me, it was the worst part of the whole thing was brain fog.
Yep.
Because I'm
Oh,
a director at
that
Siemens. I ran my own business, and I couldn't put two and two together. I'm like,
right.
uh, uh, uh,
I'm
couldn't
still
even
going.
function.
I'm still going through that right now. It's not as bad.
And the fatigue.
Yep.
I would get such bad fatigue. I would literally be getting 300 steps a day. Out of bed to the bathroom, from the bathroom to the couch, from the couch to get something to eat, back to the couch, back to a chair, just trying to change position.
That's
And then
my
I'd be
life right
exhausted and go to bed. And I wouldn't be able to sleep.
now. That's and I'm up all night, right? Are you up all
Yeah,
night? Yeah.
sometimes. The
You know,
prednisone is horrible for sleep disruption.
yeah.
So
So
I
that's
went down a lot of rabbit holes.
yeah.
So like for sleep, there's a whole body of science out there on sleep hygiene,
Okay.
like not having bright lights, not looking at a
Yep.
screen, blue blocking glasses, using red lights for nighttime, and on and on and on and on. There's all these things you can do and have
Yep.
a set routine and go to bed at the same time. And I could slowly start getting more sleep.
Yeah.
But it still didn't help with the fatigue, but at least I was rested. It did
Right.
help a little bit with the brain fog.
Yeah.
But for me, the diet was the biggest thing. All
Um,
organic.
may I ask a question?
Yeah,
What state do you live in?
Pennsylvania.
Okay. I
So
live
I'm sorry?
I live in Connecticut.
In Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that
Yeah.
Jefferson
Okay.
Institute, it's a hospital, it's a teaching hospital.
Okay.
They were just starting a sarcoidosis clinic.
Okay.
So they have specialists who've been treating
Um,
sarcoidosis for 30 years.
I was reading about, is it Temple?
Temple has one, and so does Penn.
So Jefferson and Temple, right?
And
Jefferson
Penn.
and
Yeah.
Penn. Okay.
Yeah.
My problem is in Connecticut. I think there's still a lot more to be diagnosed with me, and the doctors are just not available. They just don't know, what to look for or what to do. You
So
know.
what I did
Mhm.
is, so one of the things we do on this call is encourage patients to advocate for themselves. If they're in a position like I was 18 months ago and unable to,
Yeah.
then the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research
Uh-huh.
has volunteer patient advocates
Really, because that's where
who
I
will
was.
advocate.
I couldn't even
So
talk.
yeah, you can get assigned somebody that knows the medical system, insurance, and this funky disease,
Yeah.
and they'll work through it with you. Make sure you can see all the right specialists. And okay, do you have a rheumatologist? You need a
No.
rheumatologist for these
I,
reasons.
yeah, I need
Do you
one.
get your eyes checked every year? Do you get your
Yeah.
heart checked every year?
Right.
Do you have when was your last pulmonary function test?
Yeah.
These are all the things that you need to do to keep on top of this, to make sure it's not straying away from baseline.
Right. Right.
So for me, I was told that Jefferson had a sarcoidosis program.
Yeah.
That's better than me. So I moved all my doctors in,
Yeah.
3 cardiologists, and my pulmonary was already there.
Mhm.
And then my rheumatologist, my ophthalmologist, everyone is with Jefferson. It's all in the same portal, and they can talk to each other. And I've been advocating very strongly for myself
Mhm.
and advocating that they change.
I'm sorry, what was that? Advocating for what?
Advocating that they change.
Yes.
So I got on prednisone, and I was getting the fatigue, the brain fog. I was a raging bitch.
There you go.
Um, I had no filter, and my legs started like shrinking. I was losing all my muscles.
That's what happened to
And,
me. That's
and my
just what happened.
rheumatologist goes, "You need to stop taking prednisone." And my neurologist says, "You need to stop taking prednisone." And my cardiologist says, "You need to stop taking prednisone." I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what's the answer? And they're like,
Right.
"Oh, go on methotrexate." Didn't
Yep.
work. Now what's the answer? It took 8 weeks for them to get back to me on what drug to start taking before I could start tapering prednisone.
Yeah.
And I feel like I lost 8 weeks of my life. So I lost 2 years of my life. But
I
um,
literally the muscle in my right leg like diminished, and my left leg was still. I have pictures of it. My left leg was still normal, and my right leg, it was like the muscle had just gone on.
yeah, atrophied.
Like
Yeah.
it shrunk right up. The skin was like just laying there. I'm like,
So I'm a biker. So I have lots of data on how long I can bike for and how far I can bike. And in 2018, I rode like 4,000 miles on the Schuylkill River Trail, and that was my thing. In the middle of this break flare up, I couldn't ride my bike for 2 miles.
yeah,
And I'm like, is this permanent? Is it going to come back? What's going to happen? The anxiety was through the roof.
yeah,
So the one thing is advocating for yourself. So I made sure I got my eyes checked, my heart checked regularly, my lungs checked, and had open conversations with all my doctors about like, how do we know if it's going to be in my liver? How do we know if it's going to be in my kidney? How do we know,
yeah.
if
Those
it's in
are
my
all
brain? We got to do a
yeah.
brain MRI. Oh, but you have an ICD now. So I have a pacemaker
Okay.
because my heart couldn't maintain a natural rhythm. They were
Wow.
afraid I was going to drop over dead. This is all at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was like, you've got 3 days to decide and get this done, or you'll have to wait till the pandemic's over because we don't know what's going
Wow.
to happen. And I'm like, do it.
Yeah.
So I made sure to have all my major functions checked and walk through the process, and got all this stuff can get anywhere in your body
Yep.
except your nails and your hair.
I actually think I had it in my nails, and I
Really?
I have something going on in my scalp. Because I've been
Scalp for
losing.
sure.
I'm sorry.
I said scalp for sure,
Yeah.
but
And
not inside because you don't have an immune system in it.
no, so the scalp, and it's still going on.
Yeah.
And
I lost a lot of hair through this
I don't have
process.
doctors that are helping. It's just it's frustrating.
Yes, it is. It really is. So the other part that we spend a lot of time on supporting each other, talking about is very helpful. So
Hmm.
support groups like this are good. And we meet every Tuesday. Not every Tuesday, first Tuesday of every month.
Yeah.
So you come back here first Tuesday in February and somebody will be hosting this call. There's
Yeah.
usually 10, 12 people on it. I guess
Yeah.
everyone's like, tired from the new year and pandemic fatigue or whatever.
Yeah.
But we always keep the line open for people that want to hop on and
Yeah.
get started.
I really appreciate
Um,
the story.
the other thing is some kind of counseling.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I see
I have
a therapist at least once a week, if sometimes twice.
good. Yeah, that's so important because they can help, and it's not always about your mental health. It could be about how your family's doing and how they're handling it and talking to them. And there's lots of things that they can provide a fresh perspective on that
Right.
can help make some sense out of all of this.
Yep. So, yeah, hearing your story helps because hearing the words come out of your mouth instead of mine
Yep.
makes me feel not alone.
And I try to tell my friends about it,
Yep.
and they look
And
at me crossways like, oh,
yep.
you just need to get more exercise
Yeah.
or take a nap.
And they
And it's
tell
like,
you they tell you what, what's wrong with you.
yeah. And it's like, no, you don't understand. It's well, and the one thing I've learned is when this disease is active,
Mhm.
it's creating a lot of inflammation,
Yep.
which is a lot of new cells in your immune
Yep.
system. It takes a lot of energy. So when you're fatigued, that usually means that your body's picking up the inflammation side of the battle
Okay.
somewhere in your body. So that just like a forewarning or a early warning system that you might want to pay extra attention doing body scans or just
How do you
doing.
convince your doctors to do this stuff? Like,
I do my own body scans. I picked up meditation to try and manage my stress
okay. I thought you
and
said scans. Did you say
body
body?
scan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
body.
so it's a body scan. So like, how are my shoulders doing? How are
Oh,
my
yeah.
elbows doing?
Okay.
How are my hands doing?
Yep.
And I see you writing a lot of this down. I
Yeah.
have a similar journal that I journal in. I have a symptoms log. So this might be interesting to. I'm going to pull it up. I don't know if I can share it, but about April, I knew things were not right. April of 2020. So I started writing down everything that was wrong every day.
Yep. I
Like,
did
hey,
this.
my ankles hurt, my knees
Yep.
hurt, my hips hurt, my shoulders hurt. I had a fall last night,
Yeah.
and and it's amazing to go back through it. And I swear I could feel when I was doing my body scans and like
Yep.
meditating and relaxing. I could feel it. It felt like I had soda bubbling in my guts.
Yep. Okay. So I have that feeling it was worse, but it's getting better now. It almost feels like it's
And
up my esophagus.
okay, so
And
that
I'm actually aspirating too. Thin liquids are going down my trachea.
yeah, that's
So.
It's hard. And then over a course of about 4 weeks, I could feel it going in through my hips and
Yep.
down my legs.
Yeah. And you can
And
actually, yeah,
you can feel you can feel it. You don't know what's going on,
but you can
but
feel something. Yeah.
I could feel something different.
Yep.
And now, so I started tapering prednisone in late 2020
Uh-huh.
and went from 40 very slowly down to nothing.
Okay.
And I made it through the adrenal trip point successfully. I didn't need to do anything to jumpstart my adrenals.
Good.
But as I was getting down into like the 10 and below, I started feeling things again.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. And it first started with like, it really felt like plantar fasciitis,
I'm sorry.
ankles,
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes.
right? And I
Yep.
was rolling my feet on frozen water bottles
Yep.
to try and get some relief. And then it was like restless leg syndrome,
Yep.
where I couldn't lay in bed. I just had to move my legs.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, it's restless leg syndrome. Then that started to clear, and then everything started hurting.
Yep.
And I have all my major joints, and it's all bilateral. So ankles, knees, hips,
Yep.
shoulders, my back. They get very stiff. So like when I'm done with this call and I go to stand up, it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
Like right now, I don't have pain, but when I go to move again,
I got to a point where like I sit Indian style a lot. And when I go to open up my legs, it literally feels like I'm breaking my bones to open them. And I have a picture of, there's an indentation in one of my legs from when I opened it. Like it literally like stuck underneath still. Like it was
wow,
something pulling underneath that, when I went to go open it, it didn't, release right away.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Have you looked at diet at all?
So I couldn't swallow for the first 3.5 months. So I was basically on protein shake diets. So now I'm back to eating whole food. Um, and that is one of the things that I want to make sure I am absolutely getting into is my diet. I'm very um, limited right now. I'm not driving or anything, so I kind of have to rely on other people, and it's not as easy to run to the store and get things. And so right now I'm kind of doing what I can to, you know, but
Well,
that is one thing that I'm going to make sure. What are your suggestions?
so I started with a pseudo elimination diet.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, I don't know what like told me to do this 20 years ago, but I've been doing a fruit and vegetable and protein shake
Yep.
3 to 4 times a week
Okay.
because I was never eating enough vegetables in a normal, I'm going to cook dinner, I'm going to cook a burger, and I'm going to put it on a bun.
Yeah, I eat tons of vegetables.
I'm going to slice a tomato on there. That's not enough vegetables. I'll add some French
Yeah.
fries. So I got my fruits and vegetables through my shakes.
Okay.
I'm talking kale, spinach, tomatoes, all the berries. And I've kind of like refined it and tuned it over the years. I put beets and beet greens in it.
Okay.
Um, and then I use spirulina, which is like some superfood. It's it's like a moss that grows in lakes in certain environments,
How do you spell
and they
that?
harvest it.
SR?
Spirulina. You
Okay.
can get it on Amazon. You don't have to go shopping for it. They'll deliver it to you.
Okay. Awesome.
It's like a quarter of a teaspoon. It turns the whole shake green, which is disgusting. But um, I my sister was out. I live with my dad, and he had a rough couple of years as well. And my sister's been back and forth from San Francisco. And, I was kind of teaching her a lot of what I've learned about whole food, organic food versus processed food, and differences in proteins. Like, a grass-fed, humanely killed cow is much more nutritious and much less inflammatory
Yep.
than one that is raised in an industrial slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
In a pen, and then all stressed out, and all those stress hormones are releasing into the blood and into the muscles, and then they kill it so you can eat it. That's not good for you either.
No.
So I'm just like tuning into all these podcasts and doing all this research, and she's like, oh, wow, it all makes sense, because she's got some weird things going on that they don't have a root cause on, a lot of inflammation and stuff like that. And, so she's looking at this concoction, which is fruit and vegetable and protein powder, spirulina, peptic, what do you call it? Peptides, which is like a precursor for protein.
Yep.
And Greek yogurt. And I explained to her why I'm doing each one of these. And she's like, but it looks disgusting. I'm like, I'm not doing it for the taste. I'm doing it because it's good for me.
Exactly.
And she got like this whole new distinction, like, oh, I should eat it because it's good, not that it actually tastes great.
Yeah. It's amazing,
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing that has made a difference, and I don't know, but I would imagine this would be right in your wheelhouse because of your trachea and swallowing and things like that. Looking at intermittent fasting.
Yeah, so I do that.
You do that? What's your interval?
Yep.
Do you do a 16, 18?
When I first started eating again, obviously I wasn't doing intermittent fasting. I just lost 30 pounds in 3 months. So I, had to gain some weight back. I gained 10 pounds back so far. But normally, I do like the 8 hours at least, in between, and sometimes up to 16.
Yeah. So my last meal is usually around 6.
Yep.
And then I don't eat again until afternoon.
Yep.
After 12 o'clock. So that's an 18-hour fasting window.
Yeah.
And it really reduces the inflammation, and it cleans up your cells. And so doing that consistently will result in a better you.
One of the problems that I have is, like, if I don't eat when I'm hungry, then I lose my appetite completely. And it's especially right now, but in general. So I sometimes I go 18 hours, sometimes I go 24, a full 24 hours.
Which is a thing too. That's just fasting.
Yeah.
I've gone as long as 36 hours.
I try not to do it often, but sometimes, like, right now I have to eat when I can, because when I'm hungry I just have to eat. I also have an underactive thyroid, and I have to take the medication in the morning on an empty stomach, and then I can't eat anything for at least an hour. And if I'm hungry in the morning and then I can't eat anything, then what happens? It kind of screws up my eating for the day.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, I love the medication instructions. I got to take 3 meds in the morning, and one is with food and one is without.
That's great.
Right? It's just like, okay, whatever. I think I'll do me. I'll stick with my intermittent fasting.
What medication?
If you ever,
Yes.
What's that?
I was going to say, what medication helped the most?
Good question. I would have to believe Cellcept has been the best. So that's an anti-cancer drug. It's an immune modulator. And they use that as my steroid sparing agent.
How do you spell that?
CELL?
Cell. Yep.
CELLCEPT.
Okay. All right.
That was one that took them 8 weeks to identify as the next tier of steroid-sparing agent. I haven't been in through any of the biologicals, any of the crazy things. I tried the methotrexate that blew up my liver.
Oh,
So this is one thing rheumatologists does. They're like, okay, we're gonna try this drug, and we're gonna test your liver enzymes in 5 days. And he calls me back the next day and says, stop. Like, don't, if you haven't taken it today, don't take it. It was that bad. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? And we got together and didn't do a good job of it. Took them a while, but they got it. And I gave them feedback like, you know, you're leaving me hanging out like dog balls. You gotta communicate with the patient. I gotta be able to see what's going on. You have my chart, but none of your communications are in my chart.
yeah.
So they've since started a new thing. And I'd like to think I had something to do with it. So I had a cardiopulmonary exercise test where they hook you up with an EKG and you ride the bike faster and harder and faster and harder and faster and harder until you can't go anymore. And they monitor your heart rate, they monitor your blood oxygen, they monitor your CO2 and O2 exchange, and you get a really good profile of your cardiopulmonary capacity.
Yeah.
And I had one done back in 2016 when I was doing CrossFit because I was pushing myself really hard and was having some really bizarre reactions, like lightheaded and sweats and just complete exhaustion for 48 hours. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't hurting myself. So I had a good baseline, and then we did another one. And I could see it getting routed to all the doctors who had to put their comments in or not and sign off on it. So I could see my cardiologist, my cardiomyopathy guy, who's looking at and he could say, oh, we'll have to look at this and monitor this, and I would recommend cardiac reconditioning.
Okay.
Which sounds like I'll be riding a bike under supervision kind of thing, but just supervised, designed, get your heart working harder, fitter. So he recommended that. And so it's getting better. And everyone I worked with at Jefferson has been amazing, even through the pandemic. And,
I need to get somewhere where I can work with a team of doctors that all work together, because right now, none of my doctors communicate. And my primary care doctor, she's just, this is beyond her realm of knowledge.
Right. So normally your primary is not your director.
I'm sorry?
The primary is typically not the director of your care.
Yeah, like not your quarterback.
Not your quarterback.
Yeah.
It often
that's who my doctors are telling me that is my quarterback. And this is beyond her realm. I mean, it's just beyond it.
Right. So there's two things. One would be a patient advocate that might be able to talk to them or write a letter or help you communicate with your primary. The other, I don't know what insurance you have.
Right now I have
You have what?
I have state insurance because I'm not working.
So do I. So do I, and it's been the best thing ever. Are you on disability?
Okay, so that's something. So my doctor 5 years ago wanted me to go on it, and I don't know whether I wasn't ready to accept it, or I didn't quite understand how it worked or whatever. But I was like, no, because I was working so hard to get back to working and getting back to, I was doing physical therapy and I was doing all these things to getting back to being normal. And it was the worst thing I ever did, because as soon as I got back on my feet and started working again, this happened. You know, I kept crashing down.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on.
You are working on it? Do you have a lawyer?
No. No, this is something I'm starting this week.
Promise me?
Yes.
You'll go into the yellow pages and find yourself an SSDI lawyer.
SSI lawyer, right?
SSI or SSDI, depending on your circumstances. It sounds like you'd be SSDI.
Okay.
So worth the money.
Okay.
Doesn't cost you a thing, but some portion of your first check.
Okay.
So my guys were taking, it was capped at $5,000, and it was so much of the first payment. So when you apply for Social Security, they typically say no. And then you have to make your case and whatever, and it can take years. So
Yeah.
sometimes your first check is 2 years of back pay,
Right.
and they take a portion of that.
Okay. That makes sense.
But they guide you. They're at your hearing if you need one. They give you guidance on how to answer the questions.
They give you the best benefit, right? They get you the most benefit. Like
your benefits fit. You can go online to socialsecurity.gov and see what your benefits are going to be.
Okay.
It's a function of your work history.
Okay.
So I worked at a high level. I kept out Social Security. You know, they take a portion out of your check, and after like at one point it was like 80,000 or 100,000 or 120,000. I always exceeded that.
Okay.
When I was working, so I was kind of maxed out.
Yeah.
So I'm getting, close to $3,000 a month.
That's awesome. Good.
And I got it on my first try. And I got it in 2 months. And I think part of it was there was such a black and white between, like, he had 4 doctor's appointments in the previous 10 years. And he's had 80 doctor's appointments in 3 months.
Right.
And he can't get out of bed, and he's fatigued.
Right.
And he's seen a psychologist, a neurologist, a cardiologist, 2 cardiologists, and I had this list of doctors like this.
I have a notebook tabbed.
Yeah. Well, they'll go and pull all those records.
Yeah.
But it's good to keep your own records. That was the greatest thing about getting on one system in Jefferson. Everything's there.
I know.
So I'm also in a lawsuit.
That's what I need.
Accident.
I really need that.
Yeah. So top of the line would probably be Mayo and Cleveland Clinic.
Yep. I spoke to Mayo Clinic.
There's a Jewish something. Where I would go is I would go to, it's called StopSarcoidosis.com.
Okay.
It is a wealth of information.
Yeah, I've been on.
Okay, it's the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research's website.
Yep.
And it was founded by a woman who had sarcoidosis, and nobody knew a thing about it.
Right.
And it was very frustrating. She did a lot of her own research and started getting information. Well, we should put it all in one place. And then they got kind of in the activist bit and advocating bit and funding research, and you can keep up to date on the latest medications, and so currently prednisone is the only authorized medication for sarcoidosis.
Yeah.
Everything else is off-label. Cellcept is a cancer drug. Methotrexate is a cancer drug.
Yep.
These others are biologics, and the insurance companies, they make you go through the prednisone bit until you can't take it anymore, and then they'll authorize a replacement. But it's going to be methotrexate because it's the cheap one, and you got to wait until that destroys your liver, and then you can get on Remicade or Cellcept or something. And it's awful. It's awful. And if you have the chronic version, so one of the things I learned in my research is there's acute.
Yep.
Like you go into the woods and like your lungs are going to explode 2 days later, and you're getting sweats, and it's fast onset.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing you could hope for.
Yep.
Because it usually resolves on itself and goes away.
Yep.
And whatever it was you got in the woods, don't go to that section anymore.
Yeah.
Just forget it. If you don't notice it and they happen to find it by accident, that means it's something more systemic, like it's something in your house or it's something in your neighborhood air, whether it's a chemical plant or something.
Environmental.
Or you have an infection.
Yeah.
Right? And your body's reaction to the infection. I think that's what I have.
Yeah. So I had 2 infections when I was going through that horrible thing. They were candidiasis. Yeah, I can't say it right.
The yeast infection, yeah.
The Crusade and the Dublinase, or I call it Dubai, like the Irish one.
Like
So yeah,
Dublin, yeah.
and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm like, they're drug resistant, and there's like, it's a 50-50 chance of mortality rate. And I have 2 of them, and one of them, like I could only find information on 4 cases in the United States. I'm like, how lucky am I?
Right.
So I took
I know.
fluconazole for that.
I don't remember what I took. In '89, I went to China on a
Mhm.
business trip, and it was fun. And on my 3rd trip into China, I started to like get a little more, oh, sure, I'll try that.
Yeah.
And I got so sick. Rick, how are you? Jennifer, this is Rick Davis.
Hi, nice to meet you.
He's the reason this exists.
Oh, thank you so much.
He's a pioneer in the online support group, and he's got, what do you have now, like 20 or 30 different support groups?
Yeah, something like that.
Just fabulous. Hats off to you, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year. I'm sorry that you don't have more people with you, Kevin. Where has everybody gone? We used to have 12, 15 people every time.
I hear you. Well, we're trying to get the word out. We cut it back to once a month, so maybe we'll be able to cluster up some of that demand now.
Been wonderful for me.
Uh, yeah, Jennifer and I, so this is her first call.
Oh my goodness,
Her
Jennifer.
emails in the chat, and we'll be inviting her every month.
Yeah.
But yeah, she
Okay,
went through it.
yeah,
Very
so
technical course of sarcoidosis.
do you know how to get that email onto the list, Kevin, our list?
I do not. I thought having it in the chat would get that done. So school me.
No, you have to send it to us and then we get it done.
Okay, so just send it right to Alexa.
So when I
Yes,
logged
please.
in, when I came onto the call, it asked me for my email and I provided it. Would that help?
Oh, okay. Well, then if you provided it when you did it, I can take care of it later, or Alexa will do it later. So I just
Okay,
got to
good.
write myself a note so I remember, you know.
Oh,
You know,
I have to
And
you
look.
know how that is.
I'll send a separate email when we're done.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I write.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I'm sorry that I'm assuming this might be a fairly recent diagnosis. Is that right?
No, I've actually had it for 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
oh my
diagnosed in
goodness.
2002.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but this past flare up, I've never been scared before. This past flare up scared me.
Oh, my goodness. Um, where do you live?
Connecticut.
Mm,
Yeah.
there's, well, no, because there are a couple of good docs in the city
Yeah.
that, that this group has found. But I don't know the sarcoidosis docs, but I do know that there are good docs. But if you're seeing somebody good, that's important.
Well, that's what we were discussing. My problem is the doctors. I don't have great doctors.
Or you don't.
It's been pretty scary.
So
Um,
now it's time to get some good ones.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep on looking.
I
okay. So,
insurance, I do have a care specialist that was trying to help, and she didn't have the knowledge either, but she was able to, if they were out of state, she was able to coordinate my insurance with them. So that was good.
okay. Well,
So
that's
she could,
helpful. There
some,
are, I think, isn't there somebody good at Mount Sinai,
yes.
Kevin?
So
Yes, yes.
I've read that too. Okay. That's good confirmation. Thank you.
Yeah. What Frank should know the name.
Yeah, I think that's who Frank sees.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you can reach out to Frank and then contact Jennifer with that name.
Okay.
or just introduce Frank to Jennifer, and I'll see what I can do for you too, Jennifer. I have an idea.
Thank you. I'm willing to move at this point to a state that has good doctors.
Ooh.
There's who's that lady? Well, you introduced a guy who's terrific. What was his name?
Oh, Dr. Perez out of Jefferson. Yes, I was telling her about how Jefferson has a sarcoidosis program and how it's coming along with a little bit of kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And how I just had a CPET, cardiopulmonary exercise test, and I could, in my portal, I could see the routing of the results through all my doctors and their comments.
That's awesome. I think
which
that's
is
so great.
miles ahead of where we were 2 years ago.
Right. And then there's another lady. There's that lady doctor, the one who spoke at Rick's memorial. What's her name? Do you know who I'm talking about, Kevin?
I know you're talking about it. I don't remember her name.
But I think she's somewhere down south. I think she's in Texas or Florida or somewhere like that. But Frank, we will try to connect you. That's what we do here.
Thank you. I appreciate that more than you can imagine.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Where are you in Connecticut?
I'm in Branford, about 10 minutes from New Haven.
Right. Okay.
On the shoreline.
Okay. I have to go open another room. I usually just stop by to say hello.
Well,
So I'm going to go open another room because we have a caregivers group starting in about 4 minutes. And the lady who is the lead moderator wrestles with macular degeneration. So it's very hard for her to do stuff like that on the computer.
Yeah.
So I need to go open that room. But
it's been a pleasure.
I'll make sure you get registered. Oh, look, he found something. What did you find there, Kevin?
I just reached out to Frank on Facebook, and if you look at the chat screen, Jennifer, that's the spelling of the sarcoidosis specialist at Mount Sinai.
Okay.
The chat screen is the little bubble. Do you know where it is?
Yep, Dr. Morganthau.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. I will see you, and we'll get you connected, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Goodbye.
Bye.
Take it easy, Rick. Thanks, Merry. Happy New Year.
Oh, perfect. That was great. Thank you for that name.
You're welcome.
Great. Oh.
So we might have another moderator pop in to see if there's anything that she could add to that, but this is great.
Yeah, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate your time and your thoughts and sharing, and it's been great.
I'm glad you got value out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any other questions you had for me?
No, not at the moment. Can I email you if I have questions?
Sure.
What is your email?
Kevin M. 2.0.
2.0.
You got it. That's good. Yes, I was setting that up as I chose to file for divorce.
Kevin M.
At gmail.com.
At Gmail?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Did not turn out the way I expected. But it's all good.
You saw mine, JRG Medical at Gmail, at Outlook, just because it makes it easier that, things that are important medically, that just go right there.
Oh, I see. So you have a separate email for all your medical stuff.
Yeah. So JRG
Nice.
Medical. is really just for my medical stuff, that's obviously important. But I like Kevin M 2.0.
It's the new me.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to need
So
Jen 3.0 at this point.
that's what I was thinking, 2.1, because 2.0 didn't work out so great.
Yeah, we have to do our upgrades, our updates
Yeah.
are up. Yeah.
So you'll enjoy this. So my
Yes.
brother's a medical doctor,
Okay.
right? So he went through medical school, was a physician assistant, and then he got his full license as a doctor of osteopathy. And I'm telling him about sarcoidosis, and he's like, and I'm like, what's the deal with it? He's like, I don't know. I honestly got 2 hours on it in school, right? And it was one of 98 rare diseases that you might run across if you're unfortunate.
If you're
So what
unfortunate.
he was explaining to me is, you're a zebra,
Uh-huh.
and doctors are trained to treat horses.
Correct.
So
I
you
got you.
come in with these friggin' stripes on, and like, I don't know what to do with you.
Right. Exactly.
So and we have chronic sarcoidosis like you and I have.
Yeah.
It's more like you're a zebra with polka dots. You really don't know what to do with it. So whenever I get all frustrated with my medical system, I have to remind myself that I'm a zebra.
Yeah. I like that. Hey, I like being different. Well, sometimes I don't want to be that different, but I like being different.
All right, give me a moment here. Someone reached out to me for the link for the call tonight, so I might have someone else drop in.
Okay.
So yeah, Rick has a lot of different support groups that have spun out of what he started initially, which was a prostate support group,
Uh-huh.
prostate cancer survivors.
Wow.
And it's gone on to, all sorts of rare diseases, and like he's just talking about caregivers.
Yeah.
There's another call tomorrow night for guys on rare diseases. It's like, just show up and be heard.
That's awesome.
And with this, with the pandemic, I was going to start a support group out of Jefferson, but there's no way I'm going near anybody.
Yeah.
With my immune system compromised, vaxxed and boosted, it's just, you don't know. So I'm being
Right.
very cautious, which is not so great for my mental health.
Exactly.
I feel like a recluse.
Being isolated. Yeah.
Yeah.
I told my doctor, I said, do you think one of these days I'll be able to get out of this bubble? I said, I feel like I have to live in a bubble.
Yeah. I've never used home delivery so much.
Yeah, correct. Me too.
I go to Whole Foods and make my little list of organic vegetables that I want to eat for the week, and bring it to me. I'll pay the $10 rather than get sick.
Yeah, I agree. This has really been great tonight. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything, your time and your input, and it's really helped.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to hear that feedback, and this is one of the things that I'm doing to try and give back and
Yeah.
make peace with my own.
Yep.
So, like, with what's going on and hearing it from other people that they're going through similar things, it just makes me feel like I'm not the only one.
Yep.
It has really helped.
I agree.
And you meet all kind of interesting people, and you get great advice and feedback. And I've never had a bad meeting, so
Yeah.
I look forward to this almost as much as my counselor.
I'm looking forward to the next one.
Good. I hope you do come back.
Absolutely.
Trina, Happy New Year. She's being shy. That's not like you, Trina.
Hello, I
There
apologize.
we
Rough
go.
start, but Happy New Year to you
Happy New
all.
Year. How you doing?
Been good to you since it started, huh?
I'm sorry?
What's that?
Has the new year been good to you since it
Oh yeah.
started?
It's been
Good,
good.
good.
So we have Jennifer on the call, and she's a newbie,
Hi, Jennifer.
A newbie.
Hi,
not to
newbie.
sarcoidosis, but to the group.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Awesome. So I anticipate to hear your story, and
Yeah,
when you want to share, I'm all open.
thank you.
You're
We
I
welcome.
have been through the details for the past hour.
yeah.
Um, so it was just there was 3 people when we started, two others, and the caller dropped off before I could get any information from her and never called back. So I don't know what that was about.
Just the two
But
of
Jennifer
us.
hung in there and we had a great conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the two of
Got
us.
a name of a doctor at Mount Sinai, and we talked
Yeah,
about,
I have lots of
you know,
notes.
advocating and mental health.
Yeah.
So
I just
Oh,
want to
awesome.
today.
did they catch it in your eyes soon enough that you have full sight?
So in 2012, I got into a car accident, and I think the airbag is what, caused it to start in my eyes. And I got to a point where I was actually completely blind. It was like gray right here. I couldn't see anything, nothing.
Mm.
And I went to a doctor that I was so lucky to find him. He does cornea transplants and stuff like that. And he fixed me up, and I actually had great vision. And right now, going, through this flare up, my vision is bad at the moment. And I went to the eye doctor the other day. They go, "You're not driving, are you?" I went, "No." They went, "Thank God." Okay. I said, I'm not driving. So, yeah, so he managed it well. He retired, and now the new person who took his place, um, is not doing like what he did. So
Mm.
it's, again, doctors.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to retire. The good ones aren't allowed to retire.
He was so great. He just he took the time to sit and explain everything to me. And he had like a tablet with like a picture of the eye, and he was so gracious about it and comforting and compassionate. And he was
Mm.
he made me feel so much better. Um, and, obviously gave me the confidence that, I was going to see again. And now I, left the room, and I got out to the woman in the front desk, and I said, does it happen to say anything about what's going on with my eyes? Because, like, other than, the doctor talking to the girl who's taking the notes, I have no clue what's going on, you know? So she was like, oh, she's like, log into the portal. She goes, she's not finished writing her notes yet. I'm like, okay, great. So I have to log into the portal to find out.
And translate all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So, but she doesn't want me to and no special eye drops or anything like that. Usually I'm on the FML eye drops, like steroid, prednisone eye drops basically.
Yeah.
Um, and she doesn't, she said no to that, but she said my corneas are scarred, and so that
Mm.
I did, but hopefully it'll get better.
Now, are these the corneas that you had replaced already?
Oh no, I never had them replaced. He
You never
actually,
had them replaced. He
yeah,
caught it and done.
he
Okay,
fixed me
good.
with eye drops. I had to put them in a zillion times a day, a bunch of different ones. But over like a course of 2 weeks, I started to regain my eyesight, and it got to a point where it was actually better than before it happened. Because I used to wear contacts, and I
Wow.
didn't need contacts anymore. My eyes, it was better than before it happened. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. So now when my eyesight gets like this,
Well, continue.
doctors don't like to hear you tell them what to do. So, you know,
What about going back to the
What can be
original regimen?
expected at this point?
I'm sorry,
What
can you understand her?
what can at this
Trina, I don't think you have a good cell connection. You're breaking up. Why don't you try taking the video
what can
off?
be
That might
expected?
help with the audio.
Oh, there you go.
I probably don't. So many airplanes.
Are you there? Anyway,
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna,
so much better. Thank you.
yes,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you
I
now.
can hear you now.
Okay. I was asking what can be expected now with the scarring? What's the next plan?
Well, that would have been a question of mine had I gotten the chance to discuss it. So I'm actually going to my neurologist and my ophthalmologist referred me to a neuro-ophthalmologist, which I've been to before. So basically I'm going to take her notes and what she said, and once I get there, then I'll be able to ask my questions and go through the whole thing. So I'll
Good
find
plan.
it.
Do you write all your questions out before you go in?
Yes.
Good. That's a good practice because you get into the middle of the meeting and you're like, I know I had questions.
Yeah, the brain fog goes and like I lose everything, all train of thought. So I write everything down.
Good for you.
Yeah. So how long do these meetings usually last?
They're scheduled for an hour and a half. When we have fewer than 10 people, they can go shorter than that.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of good interaction, so I wasn't going to cut it off.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I've gained, if anything, I've gained a lot of information, but I definitely am smiling knowing that, I'm not alone. Not that I want you to be here with doing this, but
And I don't want to be here either, but
you know what I mean? Like in this
it was my
situation,
choice.
it's unfortunate, but it's comforting knowing that other people are like your words are coming out of your mouth, not mine.
Right. You get recreated and it makes it sting a little less.
Yeah, it's because trying to explain it to people is so difficult, and so when you're talking about the things that you're going through, I'm like, wow, I'm like, that's exactly what I'm going through, or I have gone through, or those are my exact words. It's comforting knowing that someone understands.
Right. And you can come out the other side
Yeah,
and be functional, even if you're on disability.
yeah. I don't expect people to understand because it is complicated, but I just I expect them to respect me in the manner that, I have to live my life a certain way. And, I will not change that for anything or
Right.
anybody.
You have to protect yourself.
Yes,
Especially
correct.
with this, yeah.
Yep. So, and if they can't respect that, well, then, too bad. I'm sorry, but I can't have that.
No Christmas cards for you.
You're going right onto the naughty list.
Texas A&M, did you go to school there?
No, friend of mine, it's his sweatshirt. When I go to visit over, so the mom has lupus, so she and I, get along so well because obviously we can talk about this crazy stuff that goes on with us.
Yeah.
So when I go over and visit at their house, sometimes it's chilly downstairs, so I put his sweatshirt over my sweatshirt, and I just happen to have it on tonight. So, but Trina, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Same here. Thank you, Jennifer.
Would you like to share anything?
Sure, sure, sure. I've been diagnosed in plus years with sarcoidosis. I have a strong advocacy record. I have been nominated as Champion Hope with Global Genes. I constantly nag my senators and congressmen here in the state of good old Georgia.
Love it.
Trying to get something going for a rare disease disorder clinic here where everything is housed under one umbrella. And my look, looking into this is the city hospital, which is known as Grady. So just it's been some conversation going around the table, across the table, and I did get back with my congressman as far as which cities and states to mimic, as far as like the Mayo Clinic and things of that nature. So just letting them know that we're fleeing to neighboring states that can treat us. Y'all losing money here, basically.
Right.
And this is what we need. Yeah, that's about all. But I went last weekend. Last Thursday was my birthday.
Oh,
I went on a road trip.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I drove to Alabama to the Wink Creek Casino. And I was not aware that there was a tornado touching down.
Oh,
and that was, none but the creator. I'm telling you, nothing but the creator. Because as I'm driving, I see leaves passing me by on the expressway, and I'm like, this is unusual. And I'm still driving, and next thing you know, you couldn't see nothing on the side of you, in front of you, around you. There was no place to pull over. The person in front of me, I can barely see their hazard lights, and all I can do was just pray and slow down and put my hazard lights on. And before you know it, I think we drove like that for about an hour. It was horrific. And
Oh,
by the time I made it to Alabama, it was all bright and sunny. I'm like, well, what just happened? Not knowing that the tornado actually touched down here in Georgia.
Wow.
I was on that border. Yeah. That was an experience. I don't see why people like to chase tornadoes and hurricanes. That's just, you just gotta be insane.
yeah.
I remember sometime in 2007, 2008, 2009, thereabouts, there was a major tornado that hit downtown Atlanta. And I was down there on a business trip the following week and looking at all of the buildings with glass missing and all the, roads that were blocked and everything was down. It was crazy.
They are a monster.
That's the truth.
They're monsters. Yeah.
I went through Tennessee and Kentucky. Oof. 200 miles of devastation.
I always wanted to go to the Bluegrass State. How is it out there? Only been once, and that was like probably up in the mountains somewhere.
I want to come to Georgia. I've never visited Georgia. I can't hear her.
Oh, damn.
What?
Oh, what is it that you like to see? Experience, I should say.
Into the Carolinas, and Georgia's
what would you like to experience while you're here?
Anything. I don't know. I just like to experience. I'm up for any adventure or any experience. Honestly, to me, it just seems like such a beautiful state. Like just
plenty of peaches.
Yes, well, yes, the giant peaches.
It is. It can be.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just seems like a beautiful.
It's plenty of things to do. You can go strawberry picking, apple picking, canoeing, water rafting. It's so many things to do here, and a lot of things that you can do is cost effective, so efficient. So
Well, I live in Connecticut, so
I love the good eating. Oh,
what?
I'm from New York, but go ahead. I said I'm from New York, so I know about the North.
Yeah, I love New York, but I'm not crazy about the weather up here in Connecticut. I'm just so done with. I'm ready to.
Did y'all get snow yet?
Yep, we've had a little bit of snow.
Did you get snow yet?
Yep, we've had a little.
Okay.
We just missed it. We went out to Jersey Shore.
Yeah,
and they
we
got
did.
A foot of it. It was just above you and below us. It was like this little band in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it missed us. We were supposed to have gotten it on Sunday, but we missed it too.
How cold does it get there in the
Mhm.
wintertime, in the winter months?
For us, if you have respiratory issues, it's really rough because the air is thin. It's a different type of air, I guess you can say. It's very thin. It's almost feel like you're in the mountains because
Okay.
we're up high, Georgia's really built around the mountain.
Okay.
And it's like when you step out, it automatically when it gets that cold, it feels like your lungs are on fire if you're very
Yeah.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Hmm
I the feeling.
hmm
I have found that
hmm
like out in California where it's more dry, that's where I feel the healthiest.
hmm Okay. I had that experience when I went to Huntington Beach. I get it. hmm
But I'm gonna try a few states before I end up, anywhere.
Relocating. I understand. I want to relocate. Once I retire, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I'm going, but it won't be Georgia
I'm
or
going to
New York.
Naples. I'm going to Naples.
Oh,
Where are you going?
nice. Maybe
Naples,
Costa
Florida.
Rica. I don't know.
Evan, where are
Okay.
you going?
Okay.
Naples, Florida.
Nice.
It's on the Gulf Coast. It's a
Yeah.
hmm
really nice community. I have friends
I,
down there and
Okay.
already looking at real estate.
I have a friend who just moved to Tampa, and I may be going to visit him this weekend.
Nice.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we'll see how I'm feeling. And they just put that, the airport now at Tweed in New Haven is like 7 minutes from me, and the flights are
Hmm.
so,
Wow.
so it's been like, it's
Is that a
great.
major hub? They got a headquarters?
Um, it's
Which aircraft headquarters there?
a really small airport. It's I think it's smaller than
Gotcha.
Westchester.
So you fly to
Hmm.
like North Carolina and connecting down to Tampa?
It's a direct flight for $44.
Get out of here.
Winner,
Wow.
winner, chicken dinner.
Right?
How can you
Yeah,
say no?
yeah. So
Other
for,
than I'm going
round
wild
trip,
right
it's like
now.
it's like $100. Yeah,
Wow.
and it's
Mhm.
a direct flight. Yep,
Yeah, I can get to
Nice.
Fort Myers for
Nice.
$90 sometimes.
you can't go bad with
So
that,
it's real close to
hmm
Tampa or Naples.
Yeah, Naples, I heard, is absolutely beautiful.
It is. It's a little farther south. And
Yep.
I spent 7 weeks down there last summer. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
and
It's hot.
so
Oh,
that's
Kevin, I'm jealous.
humidity didn't bother you?
Oh, it was hot, but it was better than the previous year where I
Yeah,
couldn't go outside if it was over 80 because
yeah,
for some reason I
Mm.
forgot how to regulate my temperature.
yeah,
I would just melt if it was warm outside.
yeah.
So the summer was better. Yeah, I
Mhm.
did a
That,
lot of bike riding and some fishing and golf, and
that's
that was
great.
nice.
The summer I spent inside, but next summer will be better.
There you go.
And so being going down south for a little while and seeing some sun I would love that. Oh, that would be
Yeah,
nice.
pick your spirits up. It does
Yeah,
re-energize you. I mean,
yeah,
all that vitamin D and being outside and
yeah, absolutely. It just the sunshine just makes you feel warm and like healthy. you
yeah,
know
Mhm.
yeah, the cold and
Plus,
the
you're getting
damp.
your vitamin D.
I'm sorry.
yep.
Right. Plus, you're getting your vitamin D.
Exactly, and I have that a deficiency of that.
Right. I
But
think we all do. Yeah.
that would be, you're definitely right about that.
Well,
So I'm gonna have to
it
jump
was
off.
nice speaking.
It was a pleasure meeting both of you, and I thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and your words. And I really look forward to it again.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good luck to you, and we'll see you in early February.
Yes,
You
I
can tell
would
us all
love
about
that.
Tampa.
Yes, hopefully I'll go and I will. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Happy
All
New
right.
Year.
Good night. Happy New
See
Year. See you, Tring. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you.
New Year.